Hi everyone, it's me, and today let's have some courage together. Let's go. Oh, sorry.
Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory.
Hello Internet, welcome to Game Theory. Hi, let's start.
Where it's another day, another FNAF episode. That's right. Even though we might have just squeezed security breach dry theories, it doesn't mean that the FNAF train is slowing down anytime soon. Case in point, Felix the Shark, the surprise bonus book in the Fazbear Fright series.
Bonus.
Yep, your eyes don't deceive you. That is an animatronic shark on the cover. Go figure, I make a joke about it and now somehow I've manifested it into being.
A robot fish. Interesting.
I think that would make this more sharky would be if it suddenly introduced a shark animatronic. They haven't done that yet, right?
Come on, MacPat. On the spot.
Anyway, although it's slated for release in April, an audio version of the book leaked early, allowing us to see what's inside of this thing. And let me tell you, while all the other books in the series have hinted at lore, this one just spells it out for you.
Stop! What are you doing?
Talking about FNAF, like I always do. It's been almost 2 weeks. I feel like I'm going through withdrawals.
Well,
Oh, wait a minute. Is that what I think it is? It's like MacPat talking to MacPat.
I am the Theory Lord.
Hi, Theory Lord.
I command you to stop.
You know, with a name like Theory Lord, it seems kind of off-brand to tell me to stop making an episode.
Silence! Talk about something else. Seriously, there are so many things that you can cover.
Like what? Elden Ring would be cool, but if your name isn't Vati Vidya, you're gonna get flamed.
There's a new Kirby game.
You'd think, right? But Kirby fans, they're surprisingly aggressive.
What about him over there in the corner? I would point him out to you, but I'm just a floating head, so let me
No
just
thanks.
nod in his general direction.
Hi, Courage.
Over there.
Hi, Courage.
Courage the Cowardly Dog? Did he even have a game? Shouldn't that be over on Film Theater?
Talk about him now or face the consequences. Theory Lord has spoken.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory. Hi.
Today we're talking about the absolute classic animated series, Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Courage, the cowardly dog. Yeah. Hi.
This thing was pure nightmare fuel bottled up and IV directly into kids' eyeballs back in the late 90s.
Now, I want you to open your mouth and say, ah.
If you're not familiar with it, the show is about an elderly couple, Sweet Muriel and Grumpy Eustace, who live near the fictional town of Nowhere, Kansas with their easily frightened dog, Courage. Every episode, the three would end up encountering all sorts of horrors ranging from spirits, aliens, monsters, even terrifying relatives.
Alone was I with tender courage, and all his fur, his furry furage, which I say did encourage me to be quite naughty.
Alright, case in point, I apologize. I'm very sorry. Please forgive me. This episode is going to get pretty dark. I'm sorry.
Courage.
Honestly, if you've never had a chance to check this one out, I highly recommend it. There's a reason it holds the record for the highest rated premiere on Cartoon Network. And even though it ended years ago, it's still kicking around. It got a Scooby-Doo crossover movie last year, which at first I'm like, what? Why? But when you think about it, it actually makes sense.
2 different dogs.
I will say it's been neutered a lot, not nearly as terrifying as the original Courage series, but you know, it's passable for a character that I haven't seen in a while. Anyway, why am I talking about it here on Game Theory? Well, last year, a game designer named Nathan Gabriel went online to claim that he had found an old hard drive at a yard sale
Hi, Nathan Gabriel.
containing the only known copy of a Courage game for the PS1, a game that went unfinished and unreleased. Ladies and gentlemen, we got ourselves the classic creepypasta story. Boy goes to yard sale, boy finds haunted game, scares ensue. Rather than release 24 Let's Plays here on YouTube, Nathan and his partner Chico Games decided to pull together the assets they found and put it all on itch.io for everyone to experience. But before even hopping into the game, I did some research. Even though Courage seemed like the perfect cartoon to turn into a video game back when every successful show had its tie-in, Courage only ever got a few browser games. No official standalone title was ever planned. So with my theorist senses tingling, I decided to give it a go on GT Live.
I don't buy that for a second. Yeah. So I was gonna say, if it's on itch.io,
Ichio? I don't know. Okay, we'll see.
I really love the outfit that Mappa is wearing. It's just wonderful.
We'll see. I have a feeling that this is something more than what it seems. And boy, was I right on the money. Constant crashes, haunting imagery, and a soundtrack that screamed, "Put me through a spectrogram." So you know what time it is, theorists. Time to break out Photoshop and our base 64 decoders. We've got ourselves a scary ARG to solve. This
A scary ARG. I'm sorry.
game isn't telling us the truth. There's a hidden story inside the code, and we're about to find it. The only thing I wonder is whether we can survive to tell the tale.
That.
Firing up the game, we take control of Courage wandering around the bag house, and that's basically it. Not a lot to interact with other than a few question marks that basically do nothing.
Huh, a 3D game. Interesting.
However, after exploring the second floor, when you go back downstairs, the living room is bathed in red.
Oh.
Things are getting creepy up in Courage's house. Going back upstairs, you get your first jump scare. Oh, hey. This terrifying face, which it's worth noting isn't actually just a jump scare. It's from the show. This is the spirit of the harvest moon from the episode The House of Discontent.
Because you don't respect your land, you must leave it.
I ain't going nowhere.
Then you will suffer the consequences.
Told you this show was pure nightmare fuel. The game is only mildly more upsetting than what they decided to give to kids on TV. The giant floating head tells us to find them, while 3 paws circle the screen. Now I know it's a Courage game, but this moment's really giving me some solid Blue's Clues flashbacks. So finally armed with a mission, we go explore the house again, only to suddenly be teleported onto a carpet made of rotting flesh. You know, the usual for the games that we cover here. If it doesn't have a decaying carcass texture, ain't nobody got time for that. At the center of the area are 16 red chairs with an odd-looking pentagram symbol in the middle. If you look close enough, you can see that the line is actually meant to map out a path. Following it and clicking on each chair as you go triggers a sound that, you know, would be great if you knew what it did. After mashing my body against every wall that I could find, because what else do you do when you're stuck in an indie horror game, I found a spot that I could phase through. I realized after the fact that there were also birds chirping to hint that it was there, but of course, I had to do it the hard way. And on the other side of that wall was nothing but another question mark that didn't do anything. At a loss, I did the only thing that I could think of. Okay, got another question mark. What if I jump off? And we've crashed the game. Fantastic. Turns out it wasn't a bad decision. When you relaunch the game, all the furniture in the living room is gone, and we get treated to a music track that absolutely slaps. Oh, this doesn't bode well. Oh, this is definitely Morse code. Obviously,
Morse code.
Is a code, Morse code, to be precise, which at the time of filming I couldn't look into, but afterwards I was able to translate to learn the way of the old wind. Old wind isn't a reference to the show as far as I can tell, but it does seem to be important, considering that it's a phrase that gets repeated throughout this ARG. Look back at the Itch.io page for the game. Perfect grammar in all the game's descriptions, except for 2 randomly capitalized words in the middle of the sentences. Old and wind.
Mom, it's wind.
Well, I've only read it in books.
However, to understand what it means, we have to keep digging. By heading upstairs and then back down, you'll find that the bag's grandfather clock has moved to the center of the room. If you let it chime 12 times, the game crashes again. And this time you have to restart from the beginning, which is definitely what happened to me the first time. But if before the 12th chime you head to the kitchen, you get a data missing screen. Now, this is important, because when you first boot up the game, we're told that there are, quote, at least 3 levels connected to completely broken sections. We couldn't find how to access them, but we were able to put data missing screens on them. So we just found the first of these screens, but so what? It's blank. It doesn't tell us anything. Or does it? At this point, you know that when an ARG presents us with a black screen, it's Photoshop time. By messing around with the brightness and contrast levels, we find a hidden message within the black void that says, quote, "Father wasn't home," which admittedly doesn't tell us a whole lot, but there are still at least 2 more clues to find, so hopefully this will paint a clearer picture for us. After getting that screen, we delete the save file and go back to the start. So we do it all again. Click the question marks, talk to the creepy moon face guy, go outside, follow the pentagram path, slam my body against all the walls, find the hidden ledge, and click on the question mark out there. But this time, we don't leap to an untimely and premature end. This time, we go back into the main section of the game, and we're rewarded for that big brain move with this. Wait, was this here last time? Oh no! Wait, oh no, Muriel!
Muriel's
dead. It's a funeral memorial for Muriel. Naturally, you click on it and it crashes. Eat your heart out, Cyberpunk. But don't worry.
Oh my gosh, since like such a cute grandmother, of course she's old, age will get up to her. I'm sorry.
In this game, it's a feature and not a bug.
Funeral.
This time when you restart the game, you're dropped into a pitch black room. So,
What?
as you might imagine, I took my time and thought carefully about my next move. Okay. Oh, hello.
No.
You know, life is all about failing up. Trying again and looking closer, I was able to identify based on the textures that there was an invisible path.
You'll notice that the texture here is different. Watch, I bet if I walk on this. Yep, there's an invisible path to get to that chair.
But with it being invisible, there was really no way to move forward. Or was there? You see, if you actually pay close attention to the music in this section, you'll hear some deep, creepy tones with a high-pitched ping. It was enough to set off my theory senses yet again.
Spider-Man! Spider sense over theory sense!
Grandfather clock scene, as well as that sound, are very reminiscent of like the sounds that you would hear if you put something visually into a spectrograph, or if we were to do it, the audio file in some way would give us something back.
And I was right, tossing this audio into a spectrogram gives you something that looks a lot like a map. Gotta give it to the puzzle makers, it's an awesome clue, if it actually worked. I tried really hard to do this level legitimately, but I just couldn't. Without any sort of landmark to tell how far you've gone, it's really difficult to estimate exactly where you need to turn and stop. Luckily, there's actually a far easier solution to this, and that's messing with your computer's rendering settings. Twitch streamer The Beard Dude had the idea to use
Hi there, beer dude. Hi.
a program called Reshade, which made the path visible and possible to navigate. It's also worth pointing out that while I was installing Reshade, I noticed a text document among the game's files that read, "She followed the rules, he broke the rules, the OW was all the way to the right," with the words being censored there. Thanks to the Morse code from earlier, though, I think we have a pretty good idea of what that's trying to say. The OW is obviously the old wind, but what is it saying about being all the way to the right? Well, going back to our invisible maze, we actually get a choice in our path, going left or right. So, to learn the ways of the old wind, I started by heading right. At the end of the path, you're teleported to a dark corridor with a house. Behind the house, you find a second memorial picture, this time featuring a man named Robert W., half burnt and without any of the decorations that we saw around Muriel's.
So it's sort of funeral, but it's a half-complete funeral.
Clicking on it will, surprise, surprise, crash the game. This time when we reload, we're back in the Bag's house, only now it's dark and eerily quiet. However, things take a turn when you go upstairs. Suddenly the game locks you into place and we're forced to confront Robert W., his realistic face stapled onto a wisp-like body that slowly floats towards us with a digital whale. Thanks, I hate it, but what I do.
Yep, that is very creepy. Please don't do that. Please don't. Please don't. It's very, very creepy and scary. Please don't do it. Thank
Don't
you.
hate is that it gives us our second data missing screen. Adjusting the brightness and contrast of the screen reveals the phrase, "Mr. Wheeler was there to greet me." So our storyteller's father wasn't home. Instead, he was met by a Mr. Wheeler. Considering that this floating entity is Robert W., it's not much of a leap to assume that the W stands for Wheeler. But to absolutely confirm, I went to match the fonts. Times New Roman, wasn't too hard. And sure enough, it turns out that Wheeler is a perfect fit for the rest of that burned image. It's also worth noting that the asset name for the horrifying creature is Real Wheeler. Seems pretty confirmed. Robert is Mr. Wheeler, but what are we trying to say about him? Well, there's still at least one more data missing page to find, and hopefully that'll start giving us some answers. Last time we went right, so this time at the Spotlight Maze, we're actually gonna go to the left, away from the old wind. After a long walk, we make our way to a single chair. Clicking on the chair does what you'd expect at this point, crashes the game, and we end up back in the Bag house. This time, though, it's full of coins. Notice that the pattern on the coins actually matches the earlier chair puzzle. As you collect the coins, a player 2 slides onto the screen, which would be weird enough considering it's a single-player game, but things get real uncomfortable when you realize it's Muriel. You know, that dead woman whose memorial we paid respects to earlier? Yeah, no biggie. Collecting all the coins causes Muriel's face to go dark. The music stops, and we get our final data missing screen. Contrast down, exposure up, it reads, "It was her, Eleanor. Father wasn't home. Mr. Wheeler was there to greet me. It was her, Eleanor." Okay, so we found all our data missing screens, but what's it all mean? Well, based on the evidence we've collected so far, I think I've got a decent idea of what this story's about. Our story has 5 people: Eleanor, Mr. Wheeler, Father, Muriel, and us, the storyteller, who is clearly the son of Father. We know that we call out the fact that Father wasn't home, which to me suggests that Father probably should have been home. His absence was unexpected, leaving us to ask the question of why. Why wasn't he there? Mr. Wheeler was there to greet me implies that Mr. Wheeler wasn't part of or close enough to the family to be on a first-name basis with our storyteller, like maybe a neighbor or co-worker or some other trusted adult. The phrase, "it was her Eleanor," implies that Eleanor was closer to the family than Mr. Wheeler, hence why she's referred to on a first-name basis. She's also not the mother of our storyteller, as most children would call their mother just mom, just like father was called father. All of this would suggest that Eleanor was maybe a neighbor or a stepmother or a sister, but that's not all we're working with here. Each time we rebooted the game to start down a different path, we were forced to delete the save file. This, to me, felt like it could hide a clue, like we were intentionally being led to those specific files. Why else would you force players to do that without giving us some sort of a payoff? And sure enough, when opening up the save files in Notepad, we find plain text phrases like "I don't" or "was good." I tried to collect as many of these as possible, but to confirm that I hadn't missed anything, we extracted the plain text that the game looks for within the files to get this. Do you remember a time when the world was good and fair? I don't. Manually changing the phrases inside the save files would allow us to load different parts of the game, so I went back and did it with each of the phrase chunks. Only the phrase "do you" loaded a part of the game that we hadn't previously found. A gray version of the bag's home with nothing to do except endlessly interact with your computer. I feel seen, creepy ARG game. I feel seen. Anyway, the game's...
Yep, me too. Always have to interact with computer because of I'm a YouTuber. A very small and tiny, unsuccessful YouTuber, but still a lot of interaction with computer.
Assets have a few more clues hiding in plain sight. There's a file called Old Wind, which it turns out is the symbol that we saw under the chairs and on the coins. So the Old Wind is the symbol. Interesting. There's also a file named Eleanor, which is worth calling out because Eleanor is the image that we see at the memorial, but one that was attributed to Muriel. Makes it seem like maybe the two are actually one and the same, bringing our character count down to 4. Father, Mr. Wheeler, us, and Eleanor/Muriel. So taking all of our evidence into account, we might be able to explain why Father wasn't home. It was her, Eleanor. Considering we see her memorial in the game, it implies that Dad had to leave to see her in her final moments before she dies. Do you remember a time when the world was good and fair? I don't. Certainly sounds like the sort of question someone would ask in the wake of a tragic, unexpected death. But it still feels like something's missing, right? Like, why are traces of all of this left in the game, and what does any of this have to do with the seemingly important phrase "Old Wind" that keeps getting repeated? Well, remember that text file from earlier? She followed the rules, he broke the rules, the Old Wind was all the way to the right. Wind in the Courage the Cowardly Dog show tends to be linked with the passage of time or death in some way. The episode Little Muriel, for instance, involves a tornado that sucks up Muriel and turns her back into a child. And Courage has to find a tornado that spins the other way to age her back up.
I'm Muriel. I'm only 3.5 years old. Who are you?
Another episode titled Windmill Vandals has a windmill that stops things rising from the dead. The Old Wind, I suspect, operates similar to these. It's a wind that makes you grow either younger or older. Eleanor followed the rules. Well, by dying, she followed the rules of nature. But upon seeing this, Robert Wheeler begins to realize his own mortality and looks for ways to become immortal, breaking the rules of nature and refusing to die by being involved in some sort of ritual or cult. I mean, look at that symbol and tell me there isn't something cultish about that. The lack of memorial when we find Robert's burned picture seems to suggest that he isn't dead. This is actually backed up by the game's itch.io page. On the day the page was created, there was also a user profile created, R. Wheeler 1998. And for now, that's as much as I can piece together about the Courage game. A PS1 era game riffing on mascot-themed platformers back in the day that hides a family tragedy under the surface, maybe having to do with a death or cult rituals attempting to be immortal. And you see, this is why Courage was such a clever choice for the game. The occult, demons, Courage has faced them all. Much like the windmills in the show, which stop the dead from rising, the Old Wind will ultimately be our key to stopping the immortal monster that tries to cheat death. And there does seem like there will be more added to this story, as Nathan, the guy who quote-unquote found the game, tweeted that he's been able to locate another mysterious hard drive with more Courage content on it. In the meantime, is this a perfect solution? No, obviously not. There are plenty of holes here in the story, but as a wise show once said,
There's no such thing as perfect. Huh? You're beautiful as you are, Courage. With all your imperfections, you can do anything.
But hey, you can do anything, and that includes avoiding male pattern baldness with our sponsor for today's episode, Keeps. Did you know that male pattern baldness affects 2 out of 3 guys before the age of 35? Eustace certainly does.
You, sir, are extremely bald.
Yeah,
In fact, the whole Bag family is pretty sensitive about their lack of hair follicles. Too bad they didn't have Keeps back in 1996, or they could have avoided all that. You see, Keeps is dedicated to helping combat the symptoms of hair loss. Most customers notice results within the first 6 months, and it's not like they're using some kind of old wind pseudoscience. Their formula is clinically proven, research-backed, and recommended by doctors. In fact, one of the members of Team Theorist actually started using Keeps at the first signs of his hair loss, and he was able to successfully stop the retreat and thinning of his hairline. But best of all, Keeps makes the whole process quick and easy, sending products that are half the price of the standard pharmacy directly to your door, regardless of whether you live in Los Angeles, California, or Nowhere, Kansas. So if you're looking to prevent hair loss, stimulate hair growth, or just take better care of the hair that you have on your head, go on over to keeps.com/GameTheorists. That's KEEPS.com/GAMETHEORISTS. Ignore that, just click the link in the description to get 50% off your first order. You don't want to wind up like old Robert Wheeler over there, though I'm not sure a full head of hair would have made him any less creepy. Nope, still creepy. Just head on down to the description. That's keeps.com/GameTheorists to get 50% off that first order. And as always, friends, remember, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching.
But anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you find this video very interesting to watch. Quite a unique and special take on life, isn't it? Like, you will age, I will age. You will die, I will die. But hopefully in my lifetime, I get to actually age gracefully, contribute something beneficial for society, contribute something beneficial for society, and for the improvement of everyone. Thank you so much. Well, as always, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. Thank you. And I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye bye. Thank you so much. And if you do like this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you have any share of us. Down below. Don't forget to follow my channel. I hope to see you all in my next video. Thank you so much. Thank you. Subscribe.